What is the Honkai? Where does it come from? What's its purpose? These are all questions that many people have regarding the mysterious phenomenon from miHoYo's game. But why does nobody ask, how is the Honkai, huh? Maybe that's why it's so hell-bent on destroying humanity. Welcome to Honkai Lore Explained, a new series in which I try to explain key lore elements from Honkai Impact 3rd with the hope of helping people form a basic understanding of what the hell is happening in this game. Today is the first video in a 3-part series about, well, the Honkai. In this video, we are taking a look at the origins of the Honkai and talk about the imaginary tree. The second part will be about the wheel of the Honkai and Honkai energy, and in the last part we'll talk about Hershers. So, if you're excited and want to support this series, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. It helps me boost my fragile self-esteem. Lastly, I ask you to keep in mind that some of the information may change, alter, or prove to be false as time passes and we learn more. Also, please note that this is not a spoiler-free video. I will not disclose any major plot points, but I will refer to events from later parts of the game, manga, and visual novels. Without further ado, here is everything we know about the Honkai. In its most basic form, Honkai is energy that originates from the imaginary tree. So, to keep the topic more organized, today I am gonna explain what is the imaginary tree and what is the purpose of the Honkai energy. I imagine that most of you probably figured it out already, but the imaginary tree is not an actual tree. I know, shocking, right? It's a higher dimension, a membrane outside the normal perception abilities of a human. To understand the concept of the imaginary tree, just as the name suggests, imagine a tree that branches off into an infinity of new branches, each branch representing a universe. On those branches, new leaves are growing and old ones die. Now, think of those leaves as each being their own civilization. When a new civilization is born, the imaginary tree helps it evolve and develop by regulating the Honkai energy present in that respective civilization's world. Honkai is believed to be a mechanism of the imaginary tree to prune itself. As Otto theorizes in chapter 17,
しかし、世界の発展には制限が必要だ。量子の海との競争の中、枝葉の成長方向はあるメカニズムによる選別と是正を受け続ける。それは自然にできたメカニズム。虚数に由来するメカニズム。保育と需要のメカニズム。そして洗礼と淘汰のメカニズムだ。人類にとってそれは崩壊という名の災害であった。そうさ、その通り。人類は永遠に崩壊から逃げられない。
Then the Honkai is not just any threat that humanity can get rid of. No, it's a system based on imaginary mechanics, a natural phenomenon within the imaginary tree with a purpose and a predetermined programming. Think of it as the cells in your body. They are essential to your existence and make your body function properly. This is why Otto says that the Honkai is inescapable. It's not something a civilization can just fight off. But if that's the case, then everything that our characters do is meaningless? Well, not really. Going back to Otto's quote, there is a very important word in there that may give us the answer. And that word is test. The Honkai tests the civilizations on the imaginary tree and removes the ones that fail to pass.
今こそ裁きの時。
In the second key manga, when Durandal meets Sue, the enforcer of Project Valuka from the previous era, we found out that he didn't manage to find any civilization that got rid of the Honkai in all of the years he has been observing the parallel universes on the imaginary tree. This lets us know that whatever this test represents, not many civilizations managed to figure it out. Initially, it was believed that the Honkai is a mechanism that removes technologically advanced civilizations because it was trying to stop them from evolving and ascending to higher dimensions and becoming a threat to the balance of the imaginary tree. But from what we've seen so far, that may be not the case. If any civilization is a potential threat, why not eliminate it while it's still in a primitive state? Why wait for it to develop and become harder to deal with? So it's more likely that the Honkai is searching for a civilization that meets some sort of criteria and eliminates the ones that do not. Before you mention it in the comments, yes, there are indeed some civilizations that found a way to work around the threat of the Honkai. But note, they did not defeat the Honkai, nor did they pass the test, they just managed to hide. First, we have the Sugars. They are the small coffee-obsessed fluffy race that we see in Alien Space and Chapter 25 EX. We know that they fought against the Honkai, but were found and invaded by the Sky People at some point, after which they made a bubble universe called the Candy House and uploaded their consciousness into it. They survive by attaching themselves to newer civilizations on the imaginary tree and collecting Honkai energy to sustain their bubble universe. Second are the Sky People. They are the strange mechanical creatures and main antagonists in a post-Honkai Odyssey. Many believe that the Sky People found a way to beat the Honkai, but it's highly implied that not to be the case. Keep in mind that this is mostly my speculation, but I think they have turned themselves into mechanical beings that function and feed on Honkai energy, setting them on an endless space crusade to invade other civilizations and harvest their Honkai energy. As a result, they literally cheated their way around the Honkai in a very similar manner that Kevin and the Word Serpent tried to do to Project Stigma. But I guess we'll find out more in a post-Honkai Odyssey 2. With chapters 26 and 27 out, some new information regarding the imaginary tree has surfaced due to Otto being and messing with it, which gives us a better understanding on how it actually works. Up until this point, the civilizations on the imaginary tree were referred to as leaves, but since chapter 26, to better illustrate the flow of time and how it branches into multiple parallel worlds within the tree, the civilizations on the tree are also referred to as branches. And to be honest, this makes a lot more sense. But what does this mean? Not much, really. Honkai Impact 3rd, especially the English localization, it's known for messing a lot of terms and concepts, a lot of times using them in a very inconsistent manner, so don't think too much about it. We learn that the worlds within the imaginary tree are all confined to time flowing in one direction. A linear one-directional time flow is how the imaginary tree expands. Again, using the tree analogy, imagine the branches of a tree expanding and constantly breaching out into parallel worlds. Let's say that you wake up one morning and you're given the choice to eat a healthy meal for your breakfast or ice cream. Based on the imaginary mechanics, time can branch into two different universes at this point, and each universe will have its own separate flow of time. One in which you chose the healthy breakfast and had a very productive day, and another one in which you So in simple terms, the concept of time flowing is just the imaginary tree expanding. As Nagamitsu pointed out in chapter 26, outside the imaginary tree, time is chaotic and has no determined direction. In places such as the Sea of Quanta, the chaotic time flow ends up eroding everything. Ultimately, to achieve his goal, Otto made a deal with the Will of the Honkai that lets him cut off the last 500 years from the Honkai Impact 3's main universe branch of time on the imaginary tree to revert it back to a time where Callan was alive. Essentially, he is not time traveling, more so that he is cutting 500 years worth of time from the main universe's branch on the imaginary tree. On the other hand, the Sea of Quanta is another higher dimension that exists between the multiple universes within the imaginary tree. The best analogy in regards to it is given by Einstein in chapter 10. If we think of each universe as a glass of water, the Sea of Quanta is a puddle formed by the water that flows out from each of the glasses. It is a chaotic amalgamation of data from multiple universes, but unlike the imaginary tree that has order and can sustain data, the Sea of Quanta doesn't have the one-directional time flow to give any sense to it. That is why it has no form or properties of its own and needs an observer to make any sense of it. It's the place where all the worlds that don't get any more support from the imaginary tree and cannot sustain themselves anymore end up falling and eventually are destroyed and end up transformed into data. But more on the Sea of Quanta in a special lore video dedicated to it in the future. Imaginary tree, a higher dimension from where every universe is born. It is represented by the one-directional flow of time that branches into multiple parallel universes. Honkai comes from the imaginary tree, and it is a mechanism designed to nurture, test, and remove the civilizations within the imaginary tree. Honkai is a cosmic law, not something that can be defeated. The only way to stop it is by passing the test. If a civilization passes the test, the Honkai will leave it alone and it will continue to receive support from the imaginary tree and be allowed to continue to exist within it. If it fails, the civilization is destroyed and its world will eventually fall into the Sea of Quanta, where chaos will disintegrate everything into data.